also think Kamala Harris could have a moment if she trotted out her favorite phrase and said, "Let me be very clear. Our schools need to do better. Our kids need to be in school, and when they're there, they need to have the phones off and the brains on, learning the basic things we used to teach. And the idea that testing is rooted in white supremacy is in itself a racist belief that says black children can't compete with white children on tests, which they surely can." When Kamala says we're not going back, the undecided voter thinks, no, I don't want to get on the short bus back to Trump Town. But I also don't want to go back to 2020. Please, God, don't make me sit through another one of those corporate mandated sensitivity training sessions.
Bill Maher is still turning up the heat on Democrats for mishandling Kamala Harris's path to the presidency in last year's election. Most people learn from their mistakes to avoid making them again, but not the Democrats. They ignored the warning signs, repeated the same blunders, and paid the price in their desperate effort to hang on to power. Maher didn't pull any punches. He called out every misstep and tore into the DNC with his trademark bluntness. If you're into bold political commentary, hit that subscribe button, because we're just getting started.
Only a couple of weeks ago, it's not too late for Kamala Harris to do what many have been calling for her to do since she became the candidate: have a sister soldier moment. And if you weren't around in 1992, let me tell you what a sister soldier moment means. It's when you earn cred with the middle-of-the-road voters by standing up to an extremist in your own coalition. For Bill Clinton in 1992, that was a notorious rapper. No, not him. No, Sister Soldier, whose music is not much remembered, but her words are. After the LA riots in '92, she said, "If there are any good white people, I haven't met them." Now, in fairness, she had just come out of Williams-Sonoma. But she also said, if black people kill black people every day, why not have a week and kill white people? And Bill Clinton, looking for an easy target and also well aware that killing white people would decimate our Olympic snowboard team, rebuked Soldier and came out against taking a week to kill Whitey. And yes, that was seen as courageous. It was an easy win. Clinton won over independent whites, and it didn't hurt him with black voters who went for him overwhelmingly and even used to refer to him as the first black president.
Whoa, look, another Bill Maher reality check. And this time, it's aimed squarely at Kamala Harris and her impressive ability to cave under pressure. According to Maher, one of Kamala's biggest campaign blunders was her failure to show backbone. Surprising? Not really. Somewhere between the constant pandering and playing it safe, Kamala lost her message. She became so politically cautious that even undecided voters started wondering if she could stand firm against challenges, let alone navigate the extremes within her own party. Not once did she confront any radical voices around her, not the online outrage mobs, not the far-left ideologues. She simply smiled and nodded, pretending everything was fine, because taking a real stand might offend someone. Leadership? Strength?
The lesson for today is that the last two successful two-term Democratic presidents both had sister soldier moments. Oh yes, Obama had one too. In 2008, Republicans thought they had him beat when the man who was Obama's reverend in Chicago claimed the government purposefully engineered AIDS to kill minorities and spoke the words, "Goddamn America." And that is the kind of "this place sucks" rhetoric you're only allowed to use if you're a Republican. But Obama reasoned then, as Kamala should now, that, yeah, there are some Americans who are not going to vote for me just because I'm black. And while I can still win without them, I can't win if I lose the person who will vote for a black president but is kind of looking for a reason not to. So he made an amazing speech about race and called Reverend Wright's words a bunch of rants that aren't grounded in truth.
Confronting the extremes in your own party is one of the most effective ways to earn the trust of moderates and independents. It signals strength, clarity, and real leadership. And let's be honest, Democrats had no shortage of extremes to push back on. Some couldn't clearly define basic terms. Others pushed for sweeping changes like allowing biological men and women's spaces under the banner of inclusion. And there were also those who advocated for hiring and promotions based on identity rather than qualifications. These were easy opportunities for Kamala Harris to draw a line, show independence, and reassure voters that she wasn't just echoing the loudest voices in the room, but instead, she said nothing. No pushback, no statements of balance, just silence. And the occasional nervous laugh. In choosing to play it safe, she lost credibility. Rather than confront the more radical narratives, she appeared to either accept or avoid them, and that eroded confidence among swing voters. Bill Maher was right. Avoiding difficult truths and ignoring extremism doesn't project leadership, it undermines it.
And he won big. Now, Kamala could make her own Reverend Right speech and ask all white Americans to please understand, as much as you can, how much in 2020 the sight of a black man being slowly murdered with a white cop's knee on his neck would affect you if that was the history of your race. I think most Americans would be sympathetic. And then admit that in 2020, the left got a little carried away.
Next voice for Barack Obama's historic victory gave the Democrats a massive boost of confidence. Unfortunately, they never came down from it. Energized by goodwill and glowing headlines, they convinced themselves they had secured the eternal loyalty of the American people, a permanent political majority that would carry them for generations. But that belief quickly turned into a dangerous delusion. With their heads in the clouds, Democrats began to take support for granted, public trust, voter loyalty, and even basic common sense. They mistook cultural momentum for political invincibility. Instead of building on unity and progress, they pivoted hard into identity politics and ideological extremes. That overwhelming sense of self-righteousness paved the way for their embrace of what many view as performative progressivism. Rather than lead with principles, they pandered, chasing social media applause, redefining norms, and elevating emotions over evidence. Ideas once considered fringe weren't just accepted. They were amplified. And why not? They believed the Obama glow would shield them from consequences. But as Bill Maher has warned,
looting was rebranded as justice shopping. We stopped arresting shoplifters. Anti-racist baby was a bestseller. Corporations took DEI to ludicrous lengths. We opened our hearts to all who wanted to come here, and then also our borders. Portland decriminalized all drugs, and Seattle set up a no-cop zone until they had to reverse course on both. Standardized testing was dropped until schools saw how dumb that was. And yet, the head of the teachers union in Chicago still maintains that testing is, quote, junk science rooted in white supremacy. And her union tweeted during COVID, when many Americans felt we could have gotten back to normal sooner, that the push to reopen schools is rooted in sexism, racism, and misogyny. No, it was rooted in reading, writing, and arithmetic.
And that right there is how the Democrats fumbled the election, by engaging in polarizing cultural battles that many everyday Americans felt disconnected from. One of the most controversial issues was the push to restructure workplace dynamics in a way that emphasized identity over merit. Rather than focusing on qualifications, experience, and performance, some initiatives appeared to prioritize demographic characteristics. The result? Productivity suffered, workplace morale declined, and tensions quietly grew. Many employees began to feel that promotions were less about achievement and more about optics. For some, it created the perception that excellence was being overshadowed by identity politics. Instead of building unity, it fostered suspicion. Suddenly, advancement felt politically charged, and collaboration across teams became strained. What could have been a thoughtful effort toward equality and opportunity instead felt to many like forced division. The policy's good intentions were lost in the execution, and commentators like Bill Maher were quick to call it out. Yet many in the Democratic Party stayed the course, eager to
The teaching of which is apparently job none in Chicago, because only about 1 in 4 students in the city are proficient in either math or English. And absenteeism is off the charts. The teachers there want a raise now. And look, I'm always all for all teachers always getting a raise everywhere. I hate kids. I can't imagine being around them all day.
This is exactly why so many people are deeply frustrated with what they see as the harmful effects of extreme ideological trends, because they believe these trends erode the foundations of excellence and progress. Years ago, we celebrated our children's academic achievements. We took pride in their ability to read, solve complex math problems, and explore scientific concepts. Educational programming used to highlight the brilliance, curiosity, and promise of our youth. It wasn't just entertainment, it was a reflection of national pride. We were raising critical thinkers, innovators, and future leaders. Fast forward to today, and many feel that something vital has been lost. Only 1 in 4 students is considered proficient in core subjects. Just 1 in 4. That statistic is sobering, and for some, the blame lies in a shift in priorities, from academic rigor to ideological messaging. Instead of championing merit and striving for excellence, the focus has moved toward outcomes based on identity.
But I also think Kamala Harris could have a moment if she trotted out her favorite phrase and said, let me be very clear. Our schools need to do better. Our kids need to be in school, and when they're there, they need to have the phones off and the brains on, learning the basic things we used to teach. And the idea that testing is rooted in white supremacy is in itself a racist belief that says black children can't compete with white children on tests, which they surely can.
If Kamala Harris had shown just a bit more independence and maybe a little backbone, she might have posed a serious challenge to Trump. All she needed to do was stand up to the more extreme voices in her party, prove she could think for herself, and show voters she could lead with conviction instead of caution. Had she done that, she might have made history as the first black female president of the United States. But she didn't. She played it safe, leaned heavily into appeasement, and now she's barely a footnote in the conversation about the Democratic Party's future in 2028. That spotlight is now turning toward Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. But has AOC learned anything from Kamala's dramatic political stumble? Not likely. If anything, she's doubling down on the same echo chamber politics that torpedoed Kamala's credibility. The performative outrage, the social media theatrics, the carefully crafted photo ops, it's all image, no depth. Rather than adjust course, AOC seems committed to repeating the cycle. Cater to the loudest activists, alienate the moderates, and trust the media to downplay the backlash. But voters are...
When the Harris campaign launched, they got great traction by calling Trump and Vance weird. That was good. Weird was working. People are tired of weird, and ever since Donald Trump decided to dominate our fucking lives, the Democrats' argument has been, we'll restore normal. Well, if what you're selling is let's be normal again, here's an idea. Be normal. America doesn't need a revolution. It needs fixing.
Hopefully the left finds its way back to some version of normal. That's the quiet hope of every centrist still clinging to reason. But honestly, it's hard to stay optimistic with figures like AOC taking center stage and delivering speeches that often sound more like activist manifestos than responsible policy proposals. The future looks anything but balanced. She's out there harshly criticizing Israel while offering blanket praise to Palestine, oversimplifying decades of geopolitical complexity in favor of social media soundbites. This isn't diplomacy, it's political theater. And unfortunately, it's becoming the norm. The party's radical wing has embedded itself so deeply, it's getting harder to tell where the fringe ends and the mainstream begins. This isn't just a temporary phase, it's a full-blown identity crisis. The obsession with ideological purity, grievance politics, and symbolism over results has become part of the left's DNA. Reversing that would take more than reform. It would require a full political course correction. Centrists can keep hoping, but with every viral speech and every new purity test, the goalposts move farther from common sense. At this point, normal feels less like a destination and more like a myth. Unless there's a serious internal reckoning, the left may continue spiraling deeper into its echo chamber, leaving moderation behind. And that wraps up today's video. If you enjoyed it, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel for more commentary like this. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.